Good afternoon. Welcome to our video presentation on our paper in fulfillment of our course MAREACM or Management Research. My name is Vance Pineda and alongside me are Jose Manuel Cifra and Alfonso Ramirez de Arellano to tackle on the research topic testing the minimum viable product of an agriculture investment business, a qualitative research analysis. To give a brief context on what we would discuss in our research, we have identified a main research problem. The agricultural sector has been an underutilized sector in our country due to the lack of innovation and investments coming from different stakeholders. The Philippine agricultural sector has increased by 0.59% in 2018, and sub-industries decreased the contribution of agriculture in the country's GDP by 8.3%. Now, we have established our research question. What are the minimum factors and requirements for a product of an agriculture investment business to be viable? And the research objectives to identify the possible motives and considered factors of investors when investing, and to identify factors that business developers have to take in consideration when starting an agriculture investment business. The significance of the study is utilizing the agriculture sector and investment industry, the agricultural sector contributing to more GDP, and the feasibility of an agriculture investment business. The scope and limitations, however, are the respondents of the test are exclusively students, interviews were conducted online, at least a month took the mushrooms to grow, researchers did not handle the growth of the mushrooms, and the risk of the bag not being able to bore mushrooms due to the season. In order to support the researchers have identified literature that tackles concepts derived from the research study. Agricultural businesses, according to literature, aims to use farming system and techniques in order to produce goods and commodities. This area of business has also shown sign of progression, while the rising popularity of agricultural technology such as aquaponics and vertical farming. Mushrooms are the main research product the researchers used in the study. It has a good source of dietary fibers and minerals and is a good antioxidant. The researchers used a specific type of mushroom to grow, named oyster mushrooms, since they can grow in humid environments and can bear fruit in 10 to 14 days. Social entrepreneurship is a concept used to integrate for-profit businesses and social causes. Literature has described social entrepreneurship as a system that tackles societal problems while constantly innovating. Investment behavior differentiates the two subjects and types of investors, namely experienced and non-experienced investors. The experienced investors use different tools in their investment analysis, while non-experienced investors focuses and tends to rely on external analysis and market trends. Supply chain engineering is an approach agricultural businesses use in order to provide societal benefits to farmers. The process aims to reduce the complexities of value chains and immediately connects the farmers to the outside market. The researchers have identified an agricultural investment business model, which is Capital.com. Capital.com is crowdfunding and investment platform for different agricultural products. The main anchoring and supporting theories of the research topic are the human management theory and human capital theories, lean startups, and new product development. The human management theory and human capital theories are theories developed by Pearson 2017 and Adam Smith respectively, in order to prioritize an individual's human well-being and improve productivity and earnings. Through such humanistic practices, individuals will be able to improve their concern for social welfare and personal development. The lean startup method was popularized by Rees 2011, which literature describes as an approach that fosters constant development and innovation. The lean startup method also tackles the important process startups must follow in order to establish themselves in the market, namely build, measure, and learn. Meanwhile, the new product development theory aims to create a competitive advantage for products being released to the market through constant product development. It also focuses on creating value for businesses, products, and services. The new product development theory was popularized by Cooper and Kleinschmidt in 1995 and identifies 4 factors in the success of product development, namely strategic performance, development process, market performance, and organizational relations. The research gap limits the studies regarding the agriculture businesses in the perspective of HCT, lean startup, and new product development, and current literature does not determine the minimum factors of requirements to make a product of an agri-investment business viable. In establishing the literature and theories, the researchers have integrated said concepts with the assumptions and variables being tested by the researchers. A theoretical framework for the human management theory and human capital theory provides an outline on how human dignity roles, as tackled by Pearson 2017, affect the individual's outcome once a social input or investment is in place. The researchers have also identified the indicators of a successful and new product development. The figures shown shows the process of the lean startup method in business development: build, measure, and learn. These processes also consider the 6 factors of the minimum viable product, pivot or persevere, innovation accounting, validated learning, and continuous deployment. The conceptual frameworks aim to relate the assumptions and variables of the researchers with the theories identified. The figures show how the human management theory and human capital theories focuses on the assumptions of investor behavior, motives for investing, willingness to invest, investors' return on investment, factors of earned income with investments. While the new product development theory focuses on the assumptions of produce from investment, vitality of mushrooms, quality of mushrooms, and updates in tangibility. The conceptual framework on the slide integrates the concepts of human management theory or capital and the new product development in answering the questions on how agri-investment businesses are able to create products that would be viable.
Chapter 4 of our paper focuses on the methodology, what assumptions we'll be testing, and what methods will we use to help verify these assumptions. To create our assumptions, we used the test cards utilized in the value proposition design of Osterwalder. So our group has come up with 10 test cards to test during the experiment. The first 2 tests whether or not investors will be able to get an ROI, return on investment, and if they'll be able to earn or not on their investment. The third test tests whether or not the produce and harvests from the investment will be sold. The fourth test tests the investor's willingness to invest in the business. The fifth test tests the factors and expectations of earning. The sixth test tests the vitality of mushrooms, meaning if they are able to survive throughout the cycle. The seventh test tests the quality of the mushrooms. The eighth test tests updates and tangibility on the investment, whether or not updates or pictures help the business. The ninth test is testing investor behavior, whether there's a difference between 2 types of investors. And the last test would be the motives of investing, why each investor invested in the business. In order to test the minimum viable product, our group has conducted a pilot test, which we divided into 3 stages. In the first stage, we gather investors and begin to grow the investments. The second stage is when we monitor the growth of the investments, update the investors, and also observe investor behavior at this time. The third stage is when we sell the investments, distribute the earnings, and interview each investor on their overall experience. For the method of analysis, we try to find a common pattern between all our investors. And these patterns may be considered as factors to help, determine if the business is viable.
The simulations divided the participants into 2 groups, which are Inexperienced Investors Group A, which consists of 10 participants, and Experienced Investors Group B, which consists of 8 participants. All 18 total participants agreed to be interviewed, and the assumptions are verified to the formulated test cards to test the minimum viable product of the simulation.
Verifying the assumptions of whether or not investors will receive ROI, income, and if their investments, the produce from their investments, will be sold. So out of the 18 investments, only 1 investor had 0 produce. Nothing from this investor's bag was sold. The 17 bags that have sold, whether or not their investments have garnered a profit or loss, has proved that the produce from each investment can be sold.
Responses indicated positive investment experience because of the 4 insights below. As expected, experienced investors had doubts and needed more clarification because they tend to be more skeptical and over-particular and are reliant on their previous experiences. Participants thought the investment was low maintenance and has minimal risk due to low investment costs, but this may be a potential flaw because they showed no care or forgot their investments. One investor showed complete dissatisfaction because of her expectation of a sure win but garnered a loss. Factors that led to low earnings were the current dry season and the poor management of the farmers due to the ECQ. Responses indicated that investors didn't get their money's worth and did not earn enough. But they also didn't expect earnings so soon, the money was put to good use, and it's a good investing experience. Investors expected their earnings ranging from after a month to almost after a year. Inexperienced investors expected a shorter duration while the experienced expected otherwise. Investors had mixed expectations about earning through extending the period. Those who agreed argued that mushrooms have more time to grow, but those who disagreed argued the plant is not optimal in growing. Out of all the bags, only one mushroom bag did not reach maturity, which fails the vitality and quality assumptions. Most investors thought the plant would have grown and lasted despite the risk because of the trust on the farmer and pictures that assured them of life. However, the lack of knowledge of the mushrooms led investors to be unsure of the quality and vitality of the mushrooms.
To verify our assumptions on updates and tangibility, we have varied the frequency of message updates and photo updates we have sent to our investors. So from this, we were able to discover that inexperienced investors appreciated the updates. It kept them informed and it was a form of assurance on their investments. The experienced investors, on the other hand, are divided regarding the updates. Two investors, namely B4 and B8, expressed that they saw no purpose with the updates. Some investors expressed that updates should be more detailed. Investor B7 wanted to see more than just updates but the process as well. And investor B8 wanted hard metrics, such as the value of mushrooms at the current time. However, majority of the investors both agree an application and a web page would be useful for delivering updates. But majority of the investors with prior experience expressed that an application and a website would be useful when they can not only receive updates but also act on their investment. Verifying the assumptions on investor behavior. The group divided the 18 participants into two groups: investors, experienced investors, and inexperienced investors. And the group has noticed two different approaches from each investors. Experienced investors tend to approach investing with a technical and experienced approach. So they were very technical when they were investing here. Inexperienced investors, on the other hand, considered the price of investing, the risks, the returns, and whether or not they trust the person asking them to invest.
Responses indicated investors would invest more to earn more or cut their losses, but these investors would like to see first how mushrooms will grow in optimal conditions. Responses also indicated that helping farmers is a motive and may be as important of a motive as earning, although the priority is still earnings. Supportive a friend was also a motive of investing.
Investors are quite divided in their motives for investing. 5 investors from each investing group considered societal factors. 4 investors, 2 from Group A and 2 from Group B, did not consider any societal factors. Investors A5 and B5 placed a priority on both profit and society. Most of these investors believe that the agricultural sector is profitable. However, many of them believe that there must be agricultural reforms, government action, and better business acumen between the farmers. Most investors see the agricultural sector as a risky sector. However, 2 investors see little to no risk. These investors are A4 and A10, while 1 is neutral to the risk of agriculture. Most of our investors are willing to invest in similar kinds of businesses. Majority of those who agreed come from testing Group A. And the prevalent reason for investing in similar businesses is to help the farmers. The rest, mostly from Group B, are neutral on their willingness to invest. Most of the investors consider fruits and vegetables as alternatives. Only 3 investors believe in investing beyond agricultural product, which is one of the significant insights we've got. One would want to invest in farmland, the other would want to invest in infrastructure, while the other would want to invest in the farmer himself. And only 2 investors will not invest in the business if the business decides to establish themselves as a social enterprise, both from Group B. One investor stated that it is a conflict to his business, which is rice importation, and the other investor said that it is not his or her field of interest. Some investors are willing to pay at least 1,000 pesos for 30 bags. Others would pay at least 200 for 5. 11 of the investors believe that the updates were done in an efficient manner, while the rest did not. To some of them, the updates lacked certain and specific informations, while others just believe they were not getting enough updates. The pictures proved as a form of assurance, and it helped create a bond of trust between the investors and the testing group.
The researchers figure out what factors need to be removed or kept by testing the MVP. Concepts used to synthesize were the human management theory, human capital theory, and new product development. Investors showed genuine concern for the farmers and the agricultural sector, which can potentially increase the productivity and in turn lead to higher earnings as suggested by human management theory of Pearson. Good overall experience from the investors can lead to better decision making by being more educated, which can lead to higher economic gains as said by the human capital theory. Traceable factors that led to low harvest are the dry season and the poor management due to the ECQ. Business operators should then be more educated about the plant's potential risks to maximize the potential gain from the plant. Investment in the training and education for the farmers should be considered because this would help improve the effectiveness and social relationships between the management and the workers. How business operators manage the vitality and quality of the product and the updates of tangibilities of the investments could establish the competitive advantage of the business as suggested by the new product development. Pictures as a form of assurance and trust between the team and investors, and the updates being informative as well, should be considered. The creating and testing of the MVP of an agri-investment business was successful because necessary factors were identified, and those factors are all the assumptions. For our first research objective, the investors' motives and behaviors were identified. Factors considered most were profitability and affordability. Primary motive was to earn, but helping the farmers and other societal motives were just as important. For the second objective, factors that business developers have to consider are the traceable factors of earning, the vitality and quality of the product, and the ability to communicate with the investors and the farmers' competency. It is recommended for current and aspiring social entrepreneurs that the business concept being pitched is profitable and affordable. All potential risks of the investment should be known to the management, farmers, and potential investors so that the management and farmers are working efficiently and investors has trust with the business and can make an informed decision with the investment. Updates should be helpful and informative by providing hard metrics to assess the current value of their investments. There should be an option investing in larger scales, and there will be a need of a system of buying and selling. Specifically, when can investors buy and sell their investments? Expanding the product line is also recommended, such as rice, fruits, and vegetables, since investors are interested in these. For future studies, 2 cycles of simulations is recommended because the necessary factors identified in the first cycle can be tested again if this holds true for the second cycle. Consider other agricultural products as well to test the MVP, but the chosen plant is suggested to have a short growing period, such as coffee beans. Developing a beta app or website is recommended to test the updates and tangibility assumption.